But I just wanted to share how I actually learned how to count with my daughter, because learning Haisakelo has always been a challenge for me. And one elder had told me that the best way to learn all the sounds represented in our language, but was by simply counting from 1 to 10, because 1 to 10 has all of the sounds captured in our language. So I started counting to the tune of the Happy Birthday song, and that's how I learned how to count from 1 to 10 with my daughter. So it's simply Noch matloch yuduch musikyoch katloch machlos yudachos muchos kapu. Very simple, and what the song does is it connects with, like, it helps you remember the way to pronounce it. So even when I'm counting with my daughter, I'll still sing it out to the tune of Happy Birthday. But it's a really helpful tip, I find, with language learning. Even with the prayer, the food blessing that we do at the dinner table, Lyric started singing it to her own little melody, and that's how she memorizes how to say the prayer. So I'll go over that one more time, and then I'll share a video that kind of breaks down Haisakela sounds. So, Noch matloch yuduch musikyoch katloch machlos yudachos muchos kapu. Yeah, and feel free, if you have your own devices at home, you can record this too. I am recording the session so that I can share it with people who can't make it to this meeting. Let me see. So I'm gonna share my screen with you here. And I'm going to play a video that breaks down Haisakela sounds. They're called labial sounds. This video was developed and created by my coworker, Ab Morrison Hayward. And if you're questioning why we're focusing on the spelling so much, a majority of us are speaking and writing and reading in English. And for us learners, adult learners, it's a lot more harder to, one, have access to a fluent speaker every day. That's the most recommended way of learning our language. But two, what will help our children have continuous learning of our language is to see it written. You know, the same way we learn English, we grow up learning the ABCs. So that's the first thing we learn. The same thing has to happen for Haisakela, is so that they have a visible representation of the way our language is written. So with that being said, we've moved forward with adopting box orthography. And I don't really like calling it his orthography. It's really our language. And the reason why we want to utilize his orthography is because he worked with a lot of our elders, a lot of them who are no longer here, but what's captured in that document that he has created has been referred to as the very old language. And so that's why we want to continue using those resources and building off those resources, is because it really does capture a lot of the old language that isn't used anymore and that we want to keep alive. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and this is about a 5-minute video explaining labial sounds. I was hoping Vera would join us by the time we get to the end of that video so that she could say the words, but if not, I'll take my best attempt at practicing the words with you. So. Oh. Okay, can everybody hear the video? No. Okay, hold on. Give me a second. But you can see the screen, right? Yeah, okay. Let me see. Sorry guys, I'm just figuring this out. Okay. There, now it should work.
In the previous 2 videos, we talked about vowels. In the next few videos, we're going to talk about consonants and Huayslakella. So the first set of consonants we're going to take a look at is labials. So labial means lips. So that's the main part of our vocal tract that we're going to be using in making these sounds. And these sounds are related through the fact that we use our lips. And I find this is the best way to categorize all of the letters in Huayslakella. Instead of going in alphabetical order, arranging them by how they're made, hopefully will make a little bit more sense. So the first letter that we're going to take a look at is the letter B. So in English, think of the word boy. The way we make the B sound is we close our lips. So our lips are coming together, they're closing, and that's stopping the air from coming out. That's how we start. And then we use our vocal cords. This is what's called a voiced letter, a voiced sound. B. So it comes out as B. We're closing our lips and then releasing the air, and the B sound comes out. The next letter we're going to take a look at is the letter P. So in English, think of the word pop. So it's similar to the letter B, but in this case, we're not actually using our voice. So this is a voiceless sound. And basically, the mechanics behind it is the same as the letter B. We're closing our lips and then releasing the air. But with the P, we're not using our vocal cords. So we have B, and then we have pa. The next letter is also the letter P, but we have an apostrophe over top of it. So what the apostrophe tells us is that we're going to be using our glottis. So this is our glottis here. The glottis is the opening between the vocal cords. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be closing our vocal cords. That's why it's what they call a glottal stop. We're closing our glottis, we're closing our vocal cords. And then we're releasing the sound. It's similar to the P sound in pop, but since we're closing our vocal cords and then releasing it, it's going to be more forceful. And there's no English equivalent for the glottalized P in English, but basically it just sounds like. So you have kind of a popping sound. And these are the sounds that we make mostly using our lips when the air is coming out through our mouth. There are 2 more sounds that actually come out mostly through your nasal cavity, one of them is the letter M. So M as in mother. So it's just a M sound. M. So we're closing our lips and the air is coming up through our nasal cavity and the air is bouncing around inside of our nasal cavity. It's resonating in there, so that's why it's called a resonant sound. And we also have an M also with an apostrophe over top of it. So it's similar to the glottalized P, but we're kind of stopping the air before we say the letter M. M. So it's kind of a shorter sound. M. So here we have M, M. Here we have B, P, M, M. These are what are called labial sounds. They're used mostly by closing our lips. In the next video, we'll take a look at some more consonants grouped together this way. We'll explore what they call alveolar sounds. Wa.
Sorry if you guys heard me like having a coughing fit. Oh, jeez. Okay. Yeah, sorry about that. If you guys could hear me coughing up a storm there. I wasn't sure how to turn off my volume while sharing a video. I don't think I can do that. But you can watch that video. It's on our YouTube channel. I can actually share the link.
Can I add something to that?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm just going to turn on my camera here. So something I just realized now is that that's actually one of the last videos that I recorded. And this is a video series that I started, I think around about a month ago. And the first video that I recorded was where I presented this. So this is basically the vocal map. So you probably can't see it very well, but that's the video where I went over all the different parts of the vocal tract. So that was kind of my idea from the start, was to introduce this, get people used to the idea of the fact that there's different parts of your vocal tract, your mouth, that you use when you produce sounds. So I wanted to start off there, and then the next video I started going over vowels. So this is kind of a vowel chart that I developed. There's two different kinds of vowels, so I did a different video for each kind of vowel. And then I went into consonants, which is the video that we just saw just now. So if anybody might be wondering like where we are in terms of what I originally had planned, that's where I started my videos with, is just explaining the fact that the way you produce sounds is you manipulate different parts of your vocal tract, and you use those and to produce specific sounds. And those sounds are all related to each other, like the vowel sounds are related to each other. The different groups of consonants are related because they're made using the same parts of your mouth. So it's a series that I just started a few weeks ago, and my original plan was to go through each one using English words as examples of the sounds. And that's where I'm kind of in the middle of right now. And then after that, the next stage was where I'd go over the letters again, but using Heisler words as examples. Those were the first two stages that I had in mind. And then from there, I was planning on going into like words and phrases and explaining more of the mechanics behind the language, how words are created, how they're built, um, changes that usually happen when you combine different parts of different word elements together, how sentences are usually formed, things like that. So basically, I was my idea was to start really small, starting with just the sounds and then working my way up to uh, like sounds in English, sounds in Haisla, and then words and phrases and sentences and things like that. So if anybody's wondering like if, where we are in terms of that plan, it actually started a few weeks ago with the vocal map itself.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that addition, Ab. We have Vera who's joined us. Vera is our culture and language advisor, and she's going to help us out with some pronunciations. So I have this PowerPoint. I'll be sharing again my screen with the words that we're going to go through. And the words that we're covering today are following up to what the video that we just shared. It's those labial sounds. And you might be surprised to know that, or to see that there's a lot of words that are very common in those sounds that are made. So just give me a second here. And sorry you guys had to watch that video without sound for a little while. I was sitting here on my own, I'm like, and then I finally checked the chat. Okay. Unmute Auntie Vera. Okay. Screen again. Okay. Can you hear me, Auntie V? Okay. I'll just start with the PowerPoint. And are you able to pronounce the words for us, please?
Wow.
All right.
Babao. Babao. BBO. BBO. Ik je korte lunch.
What was that, Auntie?
Ik je korte lunch. Can you hear me?
Nah.
Wow. Abu. Abu. Baguanum. Baguanum. Pau. Pau. Puist. Puist. Oh. Oh. Khwasab. Khwasab. Eight Aksum. Eight Aksum. Ehua. Ehua. W. W. Mamia. Mamia. Mayini. Oh no. Mieni. Mieni. Mamao. Mamao. Mesques. Mesques. Oatmas. Oatmas. hate mas, hate mas. Miasa, miasa.
Cool. Thank you for that, Auntie Vera. So now I'm going to unmute everyone. If there's any questions that you might have for Vera or Ab on any pronunciations. Auntie, are you able to turn on your video by any chance?
How would I do that?
Can't do that. Okay, that's fine. At some point, I would like to be able to have a visual for people to see the pronunciations, the way things are pronounced. So I'll work on trying to get a visual here for everyone as well. So I'm going to unmute, and if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask. You have Vera here, Ab, who have a very good understanding of the language. So
I do have something that I wanted to just clarify. The word for mother, abu, the spelling often comes out as abuk. And there is a thing that linguists do when sometimes they spell something differently than how it's actually pronounced. So it might be spelled abuk, but it's actually pronounced abuch.
That's what
So
I said.
it should actually be a rounded X, like an X, the small W after it at the end of that word. So that was something I wanted to add, just to clarify.
So how would you spell Abu?
Could you bring up the slide again, Teresa?
yep.
Hello?
Hold on. Hey, Dustin.
Yeah, I'm just.
Sorry, where was that? That was towards the beginning, I believe.
Yeah, beginning. Right there.
Yeah, so it would be spelled exactly the same way, except you would change the K into an X.
Oh, okay.
And for the phonetic translation there,
I think that should be changed too.
yeah, because that's a different sound. I would say a boosh.
Yeah.
It should be abu.
How would you guys spell that?
That's
Another
a
O?
tough one because it's,
Two O's and the X?
That
Okay.
might work.
With a line. Abuch.
With a little W on
Yeah.
up.
And
I was gonna say hanging, but it's not hanging, it's there.
That's a great example of why phonetic spelling doesn't always work or translate over. It's something that we've been trying to share with our community members, is that it's a lot easier to spell it the way it sounds. However, it doesn't always do our language the justice and doesn't always properly translate over. Thus, another reasoning behind having to decide on an orthography so that it properly captures those sounds and that we're not mispronouncing our words, because over time I've learned that even the slightest mispronunciation, you could be saying something entirely different, and that can be a real challenge when you're trying to learn a language. So thank you for those points. And
So Teresa, while we have both Vera and Abba here, can we just go through all the words, how they're spelled? And
sure. Just give me a second. I'm going to go back and I'm going to find my word list that I sent to you guys. Or do we just want to share the screen? We could share the screen again. And then we can have a chat through the whole PowerPoint again?
yeah.
Okay. Let's do that.
Babao. Babao.
Oh yeah, and feel free to practice at home too.
Babao.
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 Oh, sorry, I had one. Okay, babao.
BBO.
Indeed.
BBO.
B-O.
And I do like the fact they include the fact that it's a pet name, because there is another name that they use for uncle, Huitlao.
Hutlaf.
Yeah.
Hutlaf is the other name for uncle.
That's in this lesson as well too. Yeah, that's a really interesting point about BBO, because I thought that was the only term for uncle. It was really neat to learn that it was a pet name, like a term of endearment for your uncle.
Ahoy. Abu.
Ooh,
Abu.
boo.
Abu.
Abu.
Baguanum.
Iguanum.
Baguanum.
Baguan.
Iguanum.
Baguanum.
The pluralized version is
Baguanum.
Baguanum.
Baguanum. Ha. Ha.
oh,
That's in the old Anderson Creek area.
Can you say that again, Vera, please?
Ha.
How?
And
How?
How.
Okay, so there's so the spelling in brackets, wouldn't we have to put an X there too?
and you have to change that one too.
oops. Yeah, I only wanted to quickly add phonetic spelling. You notice it's not on all of the slides, just to kind of like give people a little bit of a crutch of the phonetic spelling.
Yeah.
We like, I think we could sit for days and talk about the way it should be spelled phonetically, but just ignore my phonetic spelling attempts.
I feel it's important, Teresa, because that's how a lot of us learn is with the phonetic. I understand that we don't have all the sounds like the English, but you know, like I understand it more with the phonetic spelling.
Okay.
Yeah, we need to have that consistent as well, because you have all these different people giving different spellings on Facebook when someone asks a question.
Yeah, we could definitely sit down and work through the phonetics as well. Okay. Oh, wait, sorry. I wanted to add one more thing about this area is that Pach is the current location of where Rio Tinto Alcan is situated, if those of you needed to know the
That's
exact.
Anderson Creek.
Yeah, right by Anderson Creek.
Ha.
Pach.
Ha. You're getting right close to ah. That's blind. It sounds the same. So you have to have your pronunciation down pat. Ha. Like pa, pa, hua. Pa, hua.
Ha hua.
Ah,
Ha hua.
and
So I say the hua at the end.
well, yeah. Eventually, it'll come out naturally
Oh, okay.
It's
once
not
you've learned it.
it's just, there's not really any sound at the end of it. It's just, you're basically just, you're pushing out air
And
and you're rounding your lips. So it's just,
Pach. Pach.
pa,
Ah,
nah.
meaning you're getting it.
Now were you saying that in my sleep?
Well, it's one way to learn it. Pu'is.
Oops.
Pu'is. Then pu'asina.
Who is?
Pu'is.
Did you say who is in not you're hungry?
Anna.
Okay.
Pu'asina.
Who is?
There are other ways to say I'm hungry too. Correct, Auntie?
You.
You?
Then pu'asina. I'm hungry. Pu'as nuwa.
Pu'asnikwa. Oh, okay.
Same thing. I would say ask you, las pu'asa or sas pu'asa.
Sas pu'asa.
Like someone comes into your house. Sas pu'asa. Are you hungry?
That's pusa.
No.
This is pusa.
Na pu'asnukwa.
Granny used to ask all my cousins when they would come in the house. Sas pu'asa.
Does lun pu'asina mean I'm hungry right now? Like it's happening right now?
Pu'asina. Anna. Oh. Oh.
Oh. Oh.
Oh.
Oh.
Don't forget, girls, you call your dads D. No, the boys say D. The girls say ago.
Oh.
Ago.
Can you repeat that? Girls say
Say ago,
ago.
and boys say D.
Boys say D.
Anna.
D like D-E-E.
Anna.
Ago.
And
How do you spell ago?
A-G-O.
Oh.
Ago.
I'm sorry, I was just practicing.
Pata.
Oops, sorry.
Pata.
That was the other term we were talking about for
Yeah.
uncle.
Anna.
Can you say it again?
Pata.
Wahla.
Pata.
Whisla.
Whistlap. Whistlap.
Wahla.
A aksam.
Ipaksam.
A aksam.
Eight.
Ipaksam.
A pok. A pok. A aksam.
Pay paksam.
These are the ones that are dusted with their white on the blueberries. They're not the true blue. They look moldy.
Isn't that what the translation is, Auntie?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Eka. They get it from Eka, but that's mold.
Oh, okay.
And it's Aksam.
Eight aksam.
Pay paksam. Pay paksam.
Ipaksam.
Ehua. Ehua.
Pay hua.
Ehua. Ehua.
Ihwa.
Am I saying that right, Vera?
Na.
Ehua.
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 W.
You.
You.
W.
W.
U.
W.
U.
You.
W.
Anna. Mamia.
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 So if you wanted to say, let's go fishing, you could say, Wisney's mamia.
Anna.
We sneeze mamia.
Wisney's mamia. Mamia.
Mamia.
Mamia.
Mamia.
Mieni.
Miani.
Mieni.
Miani.
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 Mieni.
Miani.
Miani.
Yeah. Mia. Miani.
No. Mieni. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mieni.
Miani.
Miani. Mianu.
No. Mieni.
Mianu.
Nich.
Niche.
There's that nich sound again. Mieni.
Niho. Miani.
Mianu. Oh, I whistled.
So when you see an A and an I together, it makes an eh sound. Like na is snow on the ground. Miani is the salmon.
Miani.
Mieni.
Yeah.
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 Okay, say mieni.
Miani.
Mianu.
Nich.
Mianu. Mianu.
You guys are
Yeah.
just getting
What does that mean?
salmon time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I think I get
Mieni.
hooked up on that little W that my lips go round.
Ignore it.
Yeah.
You also notice this is the one where I don't have a phonetic spelling to support it.
And
Yeah.
Yeah, so that does prove that it does help some people to sound it out. But it's difficult to try translate it for phonetic spelling.
Mianu.
write it the way it sounds. Me. Yeah.
Mienu.
Yeah.
Mienu.
Mianu.
Mienu.
Mianu.
Nich.
Niche.
Mianu.
Mienu.
Am I
Mianu.
saying
You're saying I'm a fish.
Oh,
Mianu. Mianu.
Mianu?
Mianu.
Mianu. We'll come back to that one, guys.
I know. My lips are sore.
Okay, this one's
Mama'o.
a lot easier.
Mama'o.
Mama oh.
Mama. That's the official spelling, eh? That's good to know.
Nah.
Mama.
Mesques.
Mesques.
Yes.
Mesques. Say it that way. Don't say mesques.
Okay.
Oh, because you're asking a question, right? And
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Say it with
Mesques?
feeling.
What?
Mesques?
Mesques. Don't say what?
Yes, yes.
That's actually a really good point, is that often when we're studying words in silo like this, we forget that the tone really matters and plays a part in the way our language is spoken. So Vera does have a good point that when you're reading our words or when you're saying them, the tone really matters too. And you'll notice with a lot of fluent speakers, they have that melodious sound to our language where the pitch changes. Ab has a really good way of describing that pitch and the different tones that are reached. So
Just like
yeah,
that. Cute Carla.
Kyunkala.
I don't know.
You
So
are
it's-
cute Carla.
Yeah. What I noticed about the language is where they put the emphasis can almost change the meaning of the word.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was even like about slang, because I've asked numerous of times What does na'ai mean? And a lot of people responded and said it depends on how you say it. Like it's just kind of like, I don't know what kind of how you could describe it, but
Yuck.
yeah. So it depends on how you use it, because like people use it in a joking like manner and will say na'ai,
When
or
you're teasing.
yeah, when you're teasing, and then others have used it in a serious manner where they're upset or mad, and
Yeah. They
yeah.
call it.
Mom never used to let us say that to anybody.
Yeah.
It was really something really bad you said to somebody.
Yeah. It's funny how it's come as like kind of like passing, like teasing kind of thing. Because I never liked saying it too, and I've always wondered what it truly meant. And then when Auntie told me it basically means yuck, I was like, okay, it's a good thing I stayed away from using that. But I like hearing like, you know, the differences and how it means something different when you use a different tone.
Mm-hmm.
Mescas. Okay.
Oatmas.
Oatmas.
Oh,
Oatmas.
Oatmas.
oh,
Oatmas.
mas.
Hate
Hate
mas.
mas.
Hey,
Hate mas.
mas.
Oatmas.
Ma miasa.
Ma mia.
Ma mia.
Ma miasa.
Ma mia.
Ma
Ma,
mia.
mia, sla.
Ma miachla.
If I can make a suggestion,
Okay.
maybe changing that first A and that Y, taking those out and replacing them with an I. That would be closer to the sound of the word.
Changing
Ma
it.
miasa.
Ma miachla. Like ma'o. Right, Abs?
And then changing that first I to an A.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ma
I'll
miasa.
have to get you to go through that afterwards to
Yeah,
correct
so
it.
you can just delete that Y and then put an I in front of that A.
Like that.
No,
In front of the A.
in front of
There's
the
a,
second A.
there's a lot of
Yeah,
A's. Okay. Ma mia.
You can get rid of that second A.
All
Ma
right.
miachla.
Ma, mia, sla.
Where's the
But we
sound?
say ma miasa.
Ma, mia, sla.
Ma miachla.
There's a Y sound in there.
The Y comes from the transition between the I and the A.
Oh.
You're going to be mispronouncing it now.
Oh.
We'll have to go through the spelling of it together as a team, and then we'll review all the spellings. Keeping in mind that we're, like we mentioned, we're building off of the orthography, and this is one of the challenges we face as a team, is that, you know, it's we want to be able to capture it in a way that will properly represent those sounds. I think what I'll do is I'll take everyone through one more time. There's some people that joined us just recently, so we'll go through one more time with Auntie Vera, and then we'll move on with what we have scheduled for everybody today. So just give me a second here. Am I still screen sharing? Yeah, I am. Okay. So if you guys can just go onto your own videos or your screens and just mute your microphone, except for Vera, and then we can just practice along with her.
Babao.
Okay, hold on.
Babao. BBO. BBO. Abu. Abu. Beguanum. Beguanum. Pa. Pa. Puist. Puist. Oh. Oh. Khwatla. Khwatla. Ape aksam. Ape aksam. Ehwa. Ehwa. W. W. Mamia. Mamia. Mieni. Mieni. Mamao. Mamao. Meskas. Meskas. Oatmas. Oatmas. Hatemas. Hatemas. Matmiasa. Matmiasa.
Thank you, Auntie V.
You're welcome.
All right. So we wanted to follow what we were doing before everything was shut down. And we were trying to, like, you know, mix things up with not only sharing Haisla content, but sharing a bit of like Haisla stories and Haisla history. And today I wanted to share with you the story of Hanklikulas. It's the origin story of Haisla people. And it's a story I'm pretty familiar with. It's the last person who held the name Hanklikulas is actually my grandfather, Russell Ross Sr. And I was going to read this story right from Tales of Kitimat by Gordon Robinson. And I think I will, just because it's a shorter version of the story than the one that I usually tell. And excuse me, I do have a cold, so it's just very difficult for me to talk right now. The story of Hanklikulas, or the founding of Kitimat. In the early days, a group of braves from what is now Port Simpson near Prince Rupert were on a hunting trip, and in their wanderings they went into the Kitimat Arm and became lost. A search party made up of their relatives came up to the Arm looking for them, but while still a few miles from the head of the inlet, the river, which they could see from a long distance, suddenly opened what looked like to their imaginative minds a huge mouth, then slowly closed it again. The search party fled and went home, where they were told of the monster which must have, they believe, killed their comrades. And during the following years, news of the monster spread up and down the coast, and there was not one hunter brave enough to go near the Kitimat Arm. In a large village called Sumahalt, near the head of Uwikinu Lake, River's Inlet, BC, there lived a young man named Watmis, who found that the maidens in the neighboring village were more attractive than those of his own. He married into Nachgills, a village farther down the lake, and with all of his relatives moved there, where he lived happily for years. One evening, Watmis and his wife were sitting on the opposite sides of the fire arguing. He picked up a small stone and in a playful manner tossed it at her, but it struck her on the temple and killed her. The chief of the village called a meeting of his braves, and in the meeting decided to punish Watmis by putting him and all his relatives to death. One of the braves, who was from Watmis's own village, told him about the plan and advised him to flee. The same night, Watmis with his relatives left the village and started on a journey about which no one outside of his own group was aware. The next morning, when the chief and his men went to punish him, Watmis was already far from the village, and the chief, not knowing Watmis's route or destination, realized the uselessness of the pursuit. Watmis had heard of the monster of Kitimat and decided the only safe place for him to go was to the country which not even the bravest hunter dared to venture. Many of the dangers which Watmees and his small party overcame, and at last he pitched camp at the mouth of what is now called Kildalla Arm. Leaving almost all of his things and the 2 women of his party at the camp, he and his 2 men started to investigate the monster of which they had heard. While still some distance from the river, they saw the sight for which they had come. The river opened a huge, gaping white mouth and then slowly closed. Terror came to his men's hearts, but he, being a leader, was determined to see just what the thing was, and in spite of their fear, they kept paddling on until the thing opened its mouth again. It was then that they saw that what they had been believed to be a mouth was in reality a flock of seagulls. Countless millions of seagulls feeding on small fish in the river. The gulls at times would all sit on the sandbars, and then all of a sudden the whole flock would fly up. This was when the mouth was believed to open. When the party had taken enough of the small fish, now called ulikin, or jachwin, they returned to their camp at Kildalla, where the oldest woman cooked and ate the fish to see if it was good. Shortly afterwards, she fell asleep, for the fish were so fatty that they had made her drowsy. And when she awoke, she pronounced the fish very good, and Watmees then moved his camp to the Kitimat River and pitched his new camp at the mouth of what is now called Anderson Creek, for that was then the mouth of the Kitimat River. At that time, when Watmees first settled there, the Kitimat Valley was all gravel banks along the river, which was visible far up the valley. There were no giant 6 to 8 foot spruce trees such as are commonly found now. Noting the nature of the valley, Watmees named it Eklalisvala. I probably totally butchered that, I'm sorry, meaning gravel banks. Sometime after his camp was well established, Watmees was walking along the river and noticed a small wooden tool which had been washed ashore by the river. He decided to see where the tool had come from, and after traveling several days up the river, he found a group of Tsimshian people who had come overland from the Skeena Valley and who were camped beside the river. He invited these people to his camp, and they had such a wonderful time together. The visitors just never left. They were happy to become a part of Watmees' people. Fish, game, and wild berries were very plentiful in the Kitimat Valley, and Watmees made sure that the news of this fact reached people in the surrounding villages, and some of the people who heard the good news came to join his people. In a few years, he had a fair-sized village, and he then called his people to a feast and changed his name to Hunkley Kulas in order that his last connection with his old village and River's Inlet might be severed. His new name meant the archer, and he lived to a ripe old age, honored among his peoples as Kitimat's first settler. The end. But not the end, because it's a really interesting story in the sense that a lot of Indigenous stories, like a lot of legends, are based off of, you know, mythical creatures and things like that. But this is an origin story of Haisla people. I find is very interesting because it talks about very specific areas in our territory. And what we covered in our lessons, you might have heard Anderson Creek pop up. That was talked about in our language lessons with the word, can you say that again, Auntie? Is it Pach?
Pach.
Ach.
Pach.
Pach.
Pach is the area. The creek itself is called Yaksta, isn't it?
No,
Yungala.
Yaksta is another place.
Okay.
So I thought it was a really interesting story because it shares exact areas and locations. Someday in the future, I'd love to see that area just kind of marked as Haisla, and we put the history there. But if any of you are interested in receiving more materials that support this group, you can send me an email and I can send you all the resources that we're either talking about. There's my work email in the chat. And next I wanted to just chat about medicines. Right now is a good time to be harvesting some of our traditional medicines. And I figured since we have Vera and Dustin on our chat today, I was going to ask if we could talk about duhua. And if you guys could share a little bit about what you know of the plant and its uses. I can kick off by sharing some information from the salmonberry blossoms in the new year. Hold on. Did I say duhua, right? Nettle. Okay, stinging nettle. The Haisla name is duhua. And the botanical description is that it's a plant that will identify itself to you if you fail to identify it first. How many of you guys have been duhua'd before?
Yep.
By accident. Oh my gosh, it's painful when it's by accident.
Not since I was a little kid.
No? It's most easily recognized by its stinging qualities. However, another way to identify this plant is to observe the leaves, which are oval to heart-shaped with a pointy tip and coarsely sawtoothed. It ranges from 1 to 3 meters tall and has a greenish clustering flowers which droop under each set of leaves. It can be found in moist, shady areas such as the river near Miscusa. And since the plant fibers were an important material to manufacture, cordage nettle plants were known to be planted within Haisla and Honoxila villages. Be warned with this plant, where there's one stinging nettle, there's another one around. Haisla general uses, which I think are very interesting, is that the stem fibers of this plant were used for making rope, and ulican nets were an important product of this fiber. As a food, the young shoots are steamed and used in a salad or fried in butter. The tuberous roots of duhua are considered to be an important medicine in treating arthritis, and the roots are used in a poultice form to treat aches and swollen joints. So that's from the Salmonberry Blossoms in the New Year book, another document that I can share with you. Yeah, so I'll leave it to Dustin and Vera to share more about that plant and medicine.
I don't really have anything except what you've already mentioned.
What I've already mentioned.
Yeah.
Do you drink it in a tea, Auntie?
Not me, no.
No?
I've never tried it. I didn't have the courage to try it.
Did great granny or great grandpa ever try?
No.
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 I guess it's not much. It's not. No, that one's not a tea. I'm thinking of.
Well,
oh, no.
it can be drunk as a tea, but they usually used it for making takas.
Taka.
Let
Yeah.
it grow, harvesting, and pile it until it was dry enough to separate the fibers, and then it would make a rope with it and start making a takas.
Yeah, I have a story on that too. My gran said that the old ladies would let the duhua grow as tall as they can, and at the end of the season, when it naturally falls, that's when they would harvest the fibers. When listening to my grandmother, she said my Baba Dan's mom was the last one that she witnessed making a full tacha out of. In modern medicine now, drinking the tea of the duhua, when you pick it, it's a histamine. When you get stung by it, that's the histamine in the duhua that are reacting to you. So when you're picking the tops or the leaves, once you put it into warm water, it neutralizes the acid in there and turns itself into an antihistamine. You can make great things like soups, substitute it for spinach. The little tiny stingers that are on it are known as tetranomes. When you're treating an inflamed area, the tetranomes hit you and absorb into your skin. Now the histamine reacts, creates a big red swelling. This creates a lot of blood flow. So when you get lots of blood flow in your body, that's a good sign of oxygen flowing. All disease in the body is created by lack of oxygen flowing through all your organs and everything. So when you're drinking the tea, it's known as an astringent. What astringents do is tighten up organs and let you secrete secrete the toxins in your body. So getting back to those tetranomes and that little acid injectors in there, there's nerve blockers in there that help block pain receptors. So the pain is still there, but it's a combination of things that I believe, like the serotonin, once you get that pain, you get a pleasure. So I think all of these in a balance really help with your ailments in your body. I've heard of people using it in the olden days for the sting, like my gran has talked about it. I've never really been shown. A lot of the stuff that I've been shown and talked about is a lot of my own research from trial and error. So years and years of doing this now, I'm starting to develop what the plants are starting to teach me now. So I have a whole bunch of knowledge about all these plants, and that as I go along, I find they're starting to teach me things, which I find really interesting. The Devil's Club alone, or the stinging nettle alone, is the most nutritious plant that we know of. It has all your amino acids, your whole B complexes that you need, vitamin D, all your minerals. I have a list that I could share with you guys of modern research that I've done. I've just finished it 2 days ago, so I'll share it with the group here when we're done. I'm not too sure. My dad said somebody in the Williams family was the last person to fish with a tacha in our river here. So that will be one of my next things. I'd like to interview the last person to fish in that way. It was a really cool thing seeing in Camano going from the seine nets, the newer way, to watching my braba bring back the tacha, and driving the piles in the river is an experience that you can't pay for these days, you know?
It's pronounced
I
taka. Taka.
Tacha,
Ka.
tacha,
Taka.
ta,
Anna.
ta.
Taka.
Okay.
There was one story that Granny said that when they needed something, they would take the the nettle, and swish it against the aching parts of the person. You know, they purposely stung them with the nettles.
Yeah, that's what I would do to some of my patients that come with me. When nothing else works, people come to me. I like saying I don't like stinging you guys, but I get a kick out of it. That's true.
So you're an
It works.
Dustin?
Anna?
You're an Aikachla. Medicine
What
man.
is that?
Aikachla.
Okay.
Granny used to talk about people who were Aikachla. They did bad stuff. But you're the opposite.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that hastasa too as well? I was looking through the dictionary and it said
And
something
hasa.
like that.
Hasa.
Hasta.
No, hasa.
Hasa.
Yeah.
Hasa. Okay. Yeah, that's real. I love speaking with you guys when you're around. Everyone adds a little bit, and it gives me little things to research as well, which betters our whole program.
Yeah, if there's anyone out there too who has information about the medicine, feel free to share. I'm gonna unmute everyone after Minnie's question. Liz has a question, and then I'm gonna unmute everyone if you have questions about Dukwa.
Can you guys expand on taka?
Taka.
Taka.
Akach.
Taka.
Yeah, what, can you explain a bit more about what that is?
That's in our net that we use for harvesting jacqueline, the cone-shaped one.
Oh,
That's a takat.
It's a conical net, and I can send a document as well too, or even just a photo of it. I wish I could show it now.
We got some from you when we had that meeting when you first moved into your office.
Yeah.
You gave us pages on that.
It might just help so I can take out the background. Excuse if my little Wachla child popped up in the background. But this is what I'm talking about. And I don't know if you can really explain, but from what I understand is that this is a conical net that was made out of stinging nettle. And then it was anchored down into the river. This is the way that the river is going. And the 2 large posts were hammered down into the riverbed. And then it had these special pieces that would hold the net in place there. And it was, I don't know.
So essentially, all you,
I heard it was
yeah, so
positioned the opposite way. Instead of it flowing with the river, it was going up river. And that's why it was anchored. The Ulican swam into it until they couldn't pass it. And that's when they packed it in. And then they would lift one end into the canoe and untie it. And they would shake the Ulicans out and keep doing that. And then they would reset it. That's what I was told.
Hold on, Dustin.
there, Vera, because the one that my baba used was at the mouth of a river. So when the Ulicans went up, they're really finicky fish. If the water temperatures weren't proper, they turn around. So as the tide came up, they went to feel the water's warmth, my baba said. And when the tide went back down, that's when they used to get stuck in the taja. I'm going to practice that. But we used to pull the punt straight up to the side of it and pull it aboard and just unload it, just like you said. And it saved on gas, it saved on the noise, and it actually built a really good team atmosphere in between the different cabins as well.
The last person I knew that used a takat that way was my stepfather. And that was the way it was facing, was upriver, not downriver.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, we did that they did that in Kildala.
So I wonder if they had different fishing nets for different parts of the river then, because that opens up a lot of for me.
Yeah, it could be.
I doubt it.
Yeah, that's interesting because mine comes from the mouth of, ours was at the mouth of our river where the ocean tide came up and down. And my baba was the one, they had to fiddle with it for, I think, 2 months prior before they even set it up.
Yeah.
Do you ever witness it, Liz?
Hey. Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Anna?
Okay. Dad had a net, Ulican taka. Is that right, Xavier? Taka.
Takat.
And he had a special place for it in our back basement. He kept all the Ulican gear in one spot for the following year. They would clean it and store it and put it away for the next year. He would make sure it was fully dry. And I remember watching him. Mom figures I was only about 3 years old. I was watching him clean the net, and I could smell it. And Mom told me what the net was made of when I was 3, and Dad and them used it in Kildala until it just shredded. They got it caught. Some big logs went through it.
Mag.
Yeah. But I remember the nets and the smell of them. And it was in Kildala too.
Not sure if you guys can see the pictures I'm sharing, but this is from an out of print book called Ulican: A Fish to Cure Humanity. You can find copies of this at the Museum of Anthropology, and we also make copies available too. But the picture is showing Haisla members fishing in what I believe is the Kildala River with a takak net. I believe it was a synthetic net though, because after we stopped using or started veering away from using stinging nettle fibers for the net, we switched to synthetic fibers and nets were made that way as well. But the quote beside the picture is really unique, and it says, "I've still got my Ulican net. I used it this year. It looks just like a troller drag. It's maybe about 30 feet long. It's got a wide mouth, small at the end. You look for a good place in the river where you put your pilings. That's where the oolakins go around a current and they go in the net. In a good run, it would take about 5 minutes to fill up that net. And that was Stuart Woods, the late Stuart Woods, who had shared that. So yeah, it's a very interesting fiber. I can't imagine working with it though. Can you imagine using stinging nettles and touching it with your fingers to try and to make that nettle? Or
I think they were steamed and dried. So by the time the women were working with it, they weren't getting stung.
yeah, I think like it was already like the nettles had already been soaked off, I think, by that point. But yeah, very, very interesting.
What I couldn't
There's
understand.
also one more thing I forgot to say is there's two separate species of duhua. One of them gets really tall and one of them's in the underbrush. The ones you find on the underbrush, basically they found you, and they're going to hurt a lot more than the tall ones. They have a lot more acid in their leaves, I find.
Yeah, I just want to attest to using stinging nettle for arthritis pain. I went to Dustin last resort, went to Dustin because I did not like the idea of being stung by stinging nettle on purpose. Because like you grow up learning to kind of veer away from stinging nettle patches. And it's, from what I remember, it was a painful experience. So I didn't want to do it, but it honestly helped with the severity of the inflammation in my back. And I swear by it now. I've been patiently waiting to be duhuad.
Yeah, I actually successfully transplanted some. So this year I went down to the bushes and I dug out a bunch of the natural soil and I found some baby duhua. So I pulled it out and I have it in my garden right now. So hopefully from that, I'm going to get a whole bunch of seed pods and be able to grow it throughout the year.
Ooh.
Cool.
We need to build a hothouse, hey, Dustin?
I believe so, yeah.
Seriously.
Okay, I'm gonna open up and unmute for questions. If there's anybody that has a question, please just raise your
Teresa?
hand. Yeah.
Teresa, what was that book called? The one that you just shared with late Stuart Stuart Woods.
Oolakin, A Fish to Cure Humanity.
Oh, okay, I've got that.
Yeah.
I could send a digital copy to anyone who wants it as well. It doesn't just include Haisla information about Oolakin fishing. It contains all of the Oolakin rivers in BC. And you can see there's a lot, but it's really useful information. It is a out of print document, so but it has a lot of useful information in there. Okay, so I'm going to open it up for questions from everybody if you have anything to ask. I think you might have to unmute on yours as well too, because it won't let me unmute everyone's. So if you have a question, it's question period.
I have a question. It's Nicole. Yep, everybody.
That's Nicole.
Yep.
It's good to see everybody. It's not ever easy being away from home, so it's good to see familiar faces. Also, it brings a sense of belonging, you know, and during a time of COVID and that part of culture and community. So thank you, everybody, and Teresa and Abs and the rest of you. Teresa, so I was going to kindly ask if, I don't know if this is a time or place to ask, but perhaps you could refrain and share about your press release today with the First Nations Education Foundation. And what does that look like? Or in planning, just for more clarification verbally, I guess?
Sure, I can touch a bit on that. So we signed a memorandum of understanding with First Nations Education about, I think it was last year, and have been engaged with the program manager for FNEF for I think about 2 years now. And now that he's allocated all of the funding to support the project, we're now looking to fill roles to help support the language project. The roles are varying. We're looking for to build teams that will help us do rapid word collection. And we'll be bringing in people who will be conducting workshops and trainings to support our teams that will be doing the work. It will be pretty extensive. We're planning on starting, pending how things go right now with the current situation, starting up planning in July, program startup and implementation in August, and hopefully finishing up by September. So altogether 3 months for the project of the rapid word collection. And what we intend to do with that is to build a foundation of information. So gathering all of our Haisakella content together, and plus with the help of our fluent speakers, capturing our language. We'll have to like sit down and talk to you, or like maybe have a call with you, just to kind of break down all those details. Because honestly, I have everything here for the language class right now. I don't have everything FNEF right in front of me. So I can set up another time with you if you want to discuss that privately. And if there's anyone else who's interested in that project, feel free to reach out to me, and I can set up a meeting with you where I can just have my headspace thinking FNEF. Right now, it's a little bit hard for me to just pull things at the top of my head about it right now. But
And additional to that, I'd like to have an arrangement, but is it for only local Haislas that are close to home? Because I know sometimes where we reside can sometimes be an issue as to what we could access.
I would say that if you're dedicated to come here and find, your own accommodations, and if you can be here for that time frame, then yeah, it would be something we could do, because it is going to be group work basically. So it would require you to be here on location with us.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. To close out our gathering today, I've asked my very good friend, Miss Shelley Bolton, to share a song with us. Pretty please. And it's a good way for us to learn songs at home too. So enjoy.
I'm just going to sing the Haisla Braid. It's a song about strength and coming together and helping one another, Gay Club. And it came to me after I read a portion of the Haisla Book of Nuyum and Stories. And in there it spoke about how many years ago, how the men and the women both wore the braid in their hair and what it signified. The braid, what it stood for, body, mind, and soul, and once it was intertwined, is impossible to break. And after I read that, I sat and I thought about our community. At one time, we had a division in our community, and it was very heartbreaking to go through. And I think that it's very important that we keep this in mind for our future generation and our kids that are coming up, and they're going to be our future leaders. At one point, they're going to be running our community, and they have to learn how to work together with one another. I said before too, I have a lot of songs that I hold, a lot of songs that have come to me, and I have a lot of songs that we are given permission to sing from other communities. And our song, and I've said it before, our songs, some of the songs that Spirit of the Kitlope sing are not hundreds of years old, but at one point I would love them to be 100 years old, meaning I would love for our future generation to be singing these songs and carrying them on. And hopefully, you know, they'll be fluent Haisla and they can use Haisla words in their songs. Many of our songs, we don't know the Haisla words for it, so we sing in English, which is Haisla Braid is one of them. Thank you, Teresa, for asking if I can sing, and I'm going to share the Haisla Braid right now. And I am in the midst of recording them and hopefully being able to share them. I know there was interest in Vancouver for starting a drumming and singing group. So hopefully that can help with the learning of the songs and sharing the songs and allowing it to live on. I'm not used to sitting while I sing, but bear with me. Way aho, 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 way aho. Haisla, let's stand as one body, mind, and our souls. Just like the strands of a braid, we will be strong and will never break. Way ah hey ah hey ah hey. Way ah ho, way ah ho, way ah ho, way ah ho. Way ah ho, 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 way ah ho. Haisla, let's stand as one body, mind, and our souls. Just like the strands of a braid, we will be strong and will never break. Way ah hey ah hey ah hey. Way ah ho, way ah ho, way ah ho, way ah ho. Way ah ho, way ah ho, way ah ho, way ah ho. Way ah ho, way ah ho. Haisla, let's stand as one body, mind, and our souls. Just like the strands of a braid, we will be strong and will never break. Way ah hey ah hey ah hey. Wah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Shelley. That was like a really good way to end learners group. So that concludes our first gathering. I'm definitely taking all kinds of feedback. If there's something else you'd like to learn for next time, if there's something we missed, something we didn't capture that you were hoping to find here, please let us know. We are open to ideas and suggestions, and would like to definitely make this an experience that's worthwhile for all of you. So, and even if there's stuff you'd like to share yourself, please get in touch with me and let me know. But thank you so much for joining us today, and I hope to see you all back again next Monday, same time, and same link for the meeting. Wah, escuelas.
Escuelas.
Escuelas.